Welcome to Fear Helix. This channel isn't about jump scares or loud screams. Here, we tell stories that people wish they'd never heard. Tonight, you're about to listen to 5 terrifying stories based on real experiences, urban legends, and things that were never fully explained. Listen carefully. Some stories don't end when the video does. Story 1. The hospital room that was never empty. Hospitals have a strange atmosphere at night. During the day, everything feels busy and alive. But once midnight passes, even the walls seem different. Quieter, heavier, like they're holding on to things no one talks about. I worked night shifts at a small hospital for almost a year. It wasn't a big city hospital, just an old building in a quiet town. Most nights were boring. A few patients, a lot of silence, nothing unusual. During my first week, an older nurse pulled me aside. She had worked there longer than anyone else. She didn't smile when she spoke to me. She said, "There's one rule you need to remember. Whatever happens, don't go into room 214 after midnight." She didn't explain why. I laughed it off. Every hospital has stories like that. Rooms people avoid. Rumors passed down between staff. Room 214 was at the very end of the second floor corridor. The lights were always dimmer there, no matter how bright the rest of the floor was. Strangely, it was always clean, cleaner than rooms that were actually in use. For months, nothing happened. No sounds, no movement, no reason to think about it. I almost forgot about the warning. Then one night, around 12:40 a.m., everything changed. I was sitting at the nurse's station, filling out paperwork, when I heard the call bell. Just once. I looked at the screen. Room 214. I assumed it was a fault. Old wiring, old system. That hospital had plenty of both. I ignored it. A minute later, the bell rang again. This time, it didn't stop. I remember feeling annoyed more than scared. I grabbed the keys and walked down the corridor. My footsteps echoed louder than usual. The air felt colder near the end of the hall. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. When I reached room 214, the door was already open. The lights were on. The bed was neatly made. No bags, no patient. For a moment, I felt embarrassed, like I'd fallen for a stupid joke. Then I heard it, breathing, slow, uneven. The kind of breathing you hear when someone is struggling. It was coming from behind the curtain next to the bed. I stood completely still. I didn't call out. I didn't pull the curtain back. Something in me knew I shouldn't. I took a step backwards, then another. I closed the door quietly and walked away. The call bell stopped. The rest of the shift passed without incident. But I couldn't stop thinking about that breathing. It sounded tired, like someone who had been waiting a long time. The next morning, I asked the senior nurse about room 214. She didn't ask what I heard. She already knew. She told me that years earlier, a man had died in that room during surgery. Cardiac arrest. They tried everything. He was pronounced dead. But according to the staff, a few minutes later, the call bell rang. Just once. When they rushed in, the room was empty. Room 214 was sealed soon after. No patients were ever assigned to it again. The nurse looked at me and said, "Sometimes people don't realize they're gone." I never went near that room again. But even now, I still remember the sound of that breathing. Quiet, patient, waiting for someone to answer. Now let's move on to the second story. This one isn't about a hospital or a place meant to save lives. This is about a house, a normal-looking house, in a quiet neighborhood. The kind of place people move into thinking they're starting a new chapter. But some houses don't let you leave so easily. Story 2, titled The House That Wouldn't Let Anyone Leave. Some houses are abandoned, some are forgotten, and some appear perfectly fine until you try to live inside them. Full story in human eyes. I was looking for a cheap place to rent after moving to a new town. Nothing fancy, just somewhere quiet, somewhere temporary. That's when I found the house. It looked ordinary. 2 floors, small garden, a little old but well kept. The rent was suspiciously low. When I asked the landlord why, he paused for a moment before answering. Then he said, "People usually don't stay long." I assumed he meant students or short-term tenants. I should have asked more questions. The first few days were completely normal. No strange noises, no cold spots, no bad feelings. The house felt empty. Too empty. At night, the silence felt heavy. Not peaceful, just thick. On the third night, I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, measured. I told myself it was the house settling. Old buildings make noises, but the footsteps stopped directly above my bedroom. Then I heard the sound of a door closing. I checked the house. Every room upstairs was empty. No furniture. No signs of anyone ever living there. That's when I noticed something strange. The bedroom at the end of the hallway had a lock on the outside. I didn't touch it. That night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a clicking sound. The lock. Someone was turning it. From the inside. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. After a few seconds, the sound stopped. The next morning, I checked the door. Still locked. No keyhole on the inside. That night, it happened again. Same time, same sound. I decided to leave. I packed my bags the next day and went to the front door. It wouldn't open. Not stuck, not jammed, locked from the inside. Every window was sealed shut. I spent hours trying to force my way out. Then I heard a voice upstairs. Calm, almost polite. Why are you leaving so soon? I didn't answer. I grabbed my phone and ran back to the locked room upstairs. The lock was gone. The door was open. Inside, the room was completely bare, except for writing scratched into the wall. Names. Dozens of them. Some faded, some deep and fresh. Mine was already there. I left the house that night. I don't remember how the door opened. I don't remember stepping outside. But I remember one thing clearly. When I looked back, the house looked empty again, like it was waiting. Now, let's move on to the third story. This one doesn't take place inside a building. There are no locked rooms, no dark corridors. This story happens out in the open, on a road people use every day. Story 3, title, The Road That Changes After Midnight. Some roads feel different at night, not dangerous, just unfamiliar, as if they remember things that drivers don't. I used to drive home late from work almost every night. Same route, same roads. I knew every turn without thinking. There was one stretch I didn't like much. A long, empty road cutting through fields and trees. No houses, no streetlights. But it saved time, so I always took it. One night, I left work later than usual. It was just after midnight. The road looked the same as always, quiet, empty. About halfway through, my phone lost signal. That wasn't unusual either. Then something strange happened. The radio changed. Not static, just silence. And then a voice. Not a song, not a presenter, just a low, calm voice saying, "You've been here before." I laughed nervously and turned the radio off. A few seconds later, my headlights flickered. That's when I noticed the road looked longer. The trees felt closer, the air heavier. I checked the clock. 12:17 a.m. I kept driving. Minutes passed. The same bend appeared again, same broken sign, same leaning tree. I slowed down. There was no way I'd gone in a loop. Then I saw someone standing ahead, a man on the side of the road. He didn't wave, didn't move, just stood there, facing away. I stopped the car a few meters from him and rolled down the window. "Are you all right?" I asked. He turned slowly. His face looked familiar. Too familiar. It was me. Same jacket, same tired eyes. He leaned closer and said, "Don't stop next time." My headlights went out. When they came back on, the road was empty. I was parked at the end of the stretch near my town. The clock read 12:43 a.m. I never take that road anymore. Sometimes, when I check my mirrors at night, I still expect to see someone following, driving a little too close. Now we move to the fourth story. This one isn't about a house or a road or a place you're meant to stay in. This story is about waiting at a bus stop that should have been empty. Story 4, title, The Last Bus That Wasn't on the Schedule. Every town has a final bus, a last service everyone knows about. But sometimes, something arrives that isn't meant to. I used to finish work late when I was younger. Most nights, I caught the last bus home just before midnight. Everyone in town knew the schedule. After 11:30 p.m., there were no more buses. If you missed it, you walked. One night, I missed it. I stood at the bus stop anyway, checking my phone, hoping maybe it was running late. The street was completely empty. No cars, no people, just one flickering streetlight. I checked the time, 12:06 a.m. That's when I heard an engine. A bus was coming down the road. Slowly, too slowly. It didn't have a route number, no destination sign, just dark windows and the sound of tires on wet road. The bus stopped in front of me. The doors opened. Inside, the lights were on. People were sitting in the seats, but no one moved. No phones, no talking, not even looking out the windows. The driver looked at me through the mirror. He didn't smile. He said, "You getting on or not?" His voice sounded tired, like he'd asked that question too many times. I hesitated. Something felt wrong. I asked him what route this was. He stared at me for a moment, then said, "The last one." I stepped back. The doors closed without a sound. The bus pulled away. As it passed under the streetlight, I noticed something that still makes my stomach turn. None of the passengers had reflections in the glass. The next morning, I asked the transport office about it. They told me there hadn't been a bus running after 11:30 in over 10 years. That route had been canceled after a crash. A full bus. No survivors. Now, whenever I pass that bus stop late at night, I never stand under the light, and I never wait, because I'm not sure where that bus actually goes. Now we come to the fifth and final story. This one isn't about a place you visit or a road you travel on. This story is about something personal, something you trust, something that watches you without ever blinking. Title: The Face in the Photograph. We all keep old photos, family pictures, moments frozen in time, but sometimes a photograph remembers more than the people inside it. After my grandmother passed away, we began clearing out her house. It was slow work. Old furniture, boxes no one had opened in years. In the loft, I found a small photo album wrapped in cloth. No label, no date. Inside were black and white photographs, family gatherings, birthdays, weddings, normal memories. Then I noticed something strange. In almost every photo, there was a woman standing in the background. Not centered, not posing, just standing. She appeared behind people, near doorways half hidden by shadows. I didn't recognize her. I assumed she was a distant relative, until I turned the page. There was a photograph of my parents' wedding, and behind them was the same woman, same expression, same dark eyes. She hadn't aged. I asked my mother about it. She went quiet. She told me my grandmother used to say that some things follow families. They don't live with you. They don't speak. They just stay close enough to be remembered. That night, I checked the album again. The photographs had changed. In the newest picture, a family photo taken last year, the woman was closer, standing right behind me. I closed the album and put it back in the loft. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A memory notification, the same family photo, but this time her hand was on my shoulder. I deleted the picture. But some nights, when I check old photos, I swear I see her looking directly at me, like she knows she's finally been noticed. Ending, call to action. Those were the 5 stories. If even one of them stayed with you, let us know in the comments which story disturbed you the most. If you enjoy slow, realistic horror stories like these, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Fear Helix. We share new terrifying stories regularly, stories you won't forget easily. And remember, some stories don't end when the video does.